So this is a topic I have never ever covered on my own before. Ever. Okay, not really. I've talked about this quite a bit, but
I was
would
about to say,
Michael
I feel like I made at
Jordan
least 3 videos on this topic.
many videos. But what's nice is we're getting Dario's and Russell's perspective on it. And who knows, maybe they can combat some of my thoughts on it. So I'm very excited to talk about it. Do the Bulls beat the Rockets in 1994 and in 1995 if Michael Jordan never retires? Now, I think this is a really interesting conversation. Part of the reason why I think this is such a fascinating topic is because both teams, like the players from both teams, won't let it die, especially the Rockets. My God, they are like Robert Ory, Kenny Smith, Hakeem Olajuwon. It's like once a month they're dropping new clips saying, "Oh, we could have beat those Bulls." And so it's one of my favorite what ifs of all time. But there's so many different layers to it. And so, guys, who wants to start? What do you think would have happened if Jordan doesn't retire at the end of the 1993 season?
I obviously, as you can see, I'm a little biased. Hakeem Olajuwon's probably, in terms of favorites, he's definitely one of my 5 favorite players of all time. The reason is because of this period right here. And I'll start by saying, regardless of whether he retires or not, when he did retire, one guy, one guy got both championships. And even he was like not even he kind of retired. Everybody still kind of thinks he was retired. His body might be retired still because he's still in his baseball body or whatever. But one guy, everybody in the league had an opportunity to get these championships, especially this one. And the whole league felt that way. The whole league felt like they were wide open. It was the championship was wide open this year. And Hakeem Olajuwon got it done in terms of an all-star standpoint, single-handedly. And there is a certain thing to be said, and we saw it with Golden State, and we did see it with Michael Jordan in the 93 season, that there was a level of like, I'm bored. Like,
Sure. Definitely.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I am bored. And we like I said, we saw that happen with Golden State by the fourth ring. It was like insane. They were on like cruise control, but then they couldn't turn it off because it was just like the inconsistency was just insane. And I think we saw some of that in the 93 season. In 94, I feel like there's no way that doesn't continue to happen. And Akeem, like, I just think he still wins the MVP. I really don't think that messes with the trajectory at all. And let's say they met in a finals matchup. I'm taking Rockets in 6. They
In
could never mess with
six.
Akeem. They could never mess with Akeem. For that whole era, that especially that early 90s era, the Chicago Bulls were 3-7 versus the Rockets from 1990 to 93,
Yeah.
94.
And in particular in the three-peats in the first three-peat, those 3 seasons, they were 1-5 against the Rockets. From a matchup perspective, there's literally no one to stop Hakeem, and that's always been. I think that was the Bulls' issue during this time, is that centers kind of can take advantage of them. And
Yeah.
then obviously they had people to throw at Jordan in the series. I don't think anybody's stopping that MJ really, but it's more so I think the Rockets have someone to at least combat what Jordan's going to be throwing on the other side. So
Sure.
um,
Sure.
I definitely think it's a longer series. I can see it going 6 or 7. But because of the Rock, and this is like these 3 seasons are obviously the Bulls' dominance, and it's also a time in the NBA where regular season mattered a ton. So it's not like,
Because home
Sure.
court advantage matters more. Yeah.
yeah, yep. So I think the 1-5 record against Houston actually like means a lot.
Definitely more than it
And
would now, for
yeah,
sure.
yep.
What I will say as a counterpoint to that is the Rockets and Bulls only played each other twice because they're out of conference, like in the regular season, and then they never really played each other in the playoffs. They never did, during Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon's career. So you've got less matchups, you've got less familiarity, you've got less opportunities to make adjustments, and I think that gives like Phil Jackson even less of an opportunity to show off his stuff. You know what I'm saying? So things could change up a little bit in the playoffs, but I still think that matters. I think a big point of that is, yeah, Hakeem Olajuwon is going to eat very, very well because Bill Cartwright couldn't handle him. I mean, by the time they get to Luke Longley, maybe in the 94-95 season, he can't handle him. Nobody the Bulls could throw at him would matter. Now, I do think the Bulls would win in 1994. Reason why is because I genuinely think Michael Jordan missed an opportunity to play for the best Bulls team he would have ever been a part of. If he had been there for the 93 to 94 season, they have so much of their core of the first three-peat, and they have so much of their core from the second three-peat. That was really that season where there was a good overlap. Because now you'll have Pippen and you'll have Horace Grant. You'll still have B.G. Armstrong. You'll still have John Paxson. But on top of that, that was the first year that they got Tony Kukoc. They got Steve Kerr. Like now they've got like more shooters, more weapons. Like they're just deeper. Plus Pippen was arguably at his best at that point as well. Maybe there's more of the issue of just like fatigue and Jordan wanting it. But I mean, I gotta imagine with MJ when he's out there getting the playoff time, like, do I not expect MJ to just ball out because he's MJ? Like, you know, I imagine he's still gonna do that. Russ, what were you gonna say?
Can't you make the argument that all those guys played well and played better in 93, 94 because they didn't have to feed Michael Jordan 25 shots a game? Like, if you watch, you know, everybody.
Doesn't matter. I mean, you're right.
Hold on.
I think you're right.
Hear me out. Everybody who watched The Last Dance, which is, I'm sure, 99% of the people that watch this program.
Sure.
I watched that, and they were talking about 93, 94, and Scottie Pippen was like, because everybody got the ball, like had that, you know, little smirk and all, and everybody was talking about how the triangle worked to perfection because it was a completely unselfish offense because they didn't have a guy that was gobbling the ball 25 times a game. Now, Jordan is making a lot of those shots, and obviously is the difference between them winning and not winning, but it's tough for me to be like, oh, this is the best Bulls team Jordan would have ever been on, when I don't think it looks like that if Jordan's actually on it. Where with the Rockets, it doesn't change.
That's crazy because like
it's not crazy.
I'm talking about I'm talking about from on paper, they're objectively the best team on paper. I'm not saying that necessarily translates to the court, but that's the most talent he's ever had because he's got both. The depth chart is now deeper, right? Instead of like Judd Bushler, you've got Steve Kerr in that position.
You have that team over the 96 team in terms of talent, though. Like
because Rodman's so huge and Rodman was so great and just what he did defensively, I'm not going to say they were necessarily better than that team, but they were deeper than that team. That's all I'm saying is they just had more depth. I don't know that they're necessarily
why is the point guard escaping me?
Ron Harper.
Ron Harper, yeah, he's also like, I think that matters a ton.
Ron Harper matters a ton, but B.J. Armstrong was nice when they had the expansion draft. The first guy that was taken out of the entire league of the available guys was B.J. Armstrong because he was one of the best shooters in the entire league. Then he goes on to play for the Hornets and he kills it for him. And so, I mean, there's nice pieces on that first team too. It's like you don't have like the complete combo of both, but this is the closest you get to that in that sense.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
I don't know.
I think 95 is the one I have, like, you'd have to just believe that Michael Jordan's just going to be Michael Jordan and just take over, because 95's tough because at that point, if Horace Grant still leaves, then you have a year where you really don't have a power forward, which is kind of what happened. Yeah. Michael Jordan can use the baseball body excuse all he wants. He still played pretty good. Other than game one against Orlando, where he had a crucial turnover at the end, if you look at his numbers in the 1995 playoffs, he was still a beast, you know? And so I think it had more to do with their holes in the interior, missing a Horace Grant, missing a Dennis Rodman, rather than Michael Jordan just not being in his best form. And if Horace Grant still leaves, which I imagine he still really wants to get paid, then they're going to have some glaring holes in 95. But 94, man, that team's too deep. And when you say, oh, well, you know, they're not going to be moving the ball as much, they're not going to be, you know, having their happy kumbaya moment. Well, they never did with MJ, and they won 6 championships. Like, yes, he's going to be in there. He's going to be an asshole. He's going to be bullying him around. He's going to be doing what he does. But, like, Steve Kerr still looked pretty good with Michael Jordan on his team, you know. Tony Kukoc still looked pretty good with Michael Jordan on his team. And so I just don't know if, like, the one major advantage for Houston, really the only one major advantage is Hakeem. And is Hakeem alone enough for me to overlook like everything else? That's
I
a
think
hard
it's
thing
more
for me.
than that. I think it's the system around Hakeem though, because they're number one and definitely ahead of their time in shooting threes. And it's basically Hakeem Olajuwon gets the ball in the post. He waits for a double. If he sees the double, he's kicking it. And that was unstoppable at this period of time. And I think that's gonna like that's where I think it does damage because the Bulls are gonna have to double Hakeem Olajuwon. And
Yeah.
all the others got to do is make their shots, which they've proven to make, especially in the playoffs. We have guys making 2 threes a game. Vernon Maxwell is shooting 6 threes a game in the playoffs, which is the most.
So
I just think that's going to make a huge difference because it literally always does.
yeah, and not to mention like they can't drive to the basket as much like free will between Jordan and Pippen
Absolutely not.
just because of Hakeem. But what was Jordan's like field goal percentage in that in that span of time? I'm very curious because I'd imagine it's probably lower.
What's he
And it's
shooting?
so 11 for no, it's not.
For some
It's
reason, it's
12 for
not really
25.
showing,
So
but
he's probably
I have
shooting,
to
he's shooting
math.
48,
Yeah, he's shooting 48%. Okay, so
48%. Yep. Yeah. So which obviously is like well below what he was shooting at that time. I think his ranges were anywhere between 54% to like 51 around his peak, that first three peak.
91 to 93 was 51.7.
Yeah,
sure.
okay. So he
Sure.
definitely is drop, and I think it's because he can't attack the basket with free will.
Yeah, Akeem's getting 4 blocks a game.
Yeah. And you see he's taking 10 threes. So I mean it's not a ton because it's like 6 games, but maybe it forces him to feel like he needs to shoot more. I just think Hakeem's presence definitely alters like
100%.
what Jordan would normally do in a series. And he hadn't really had to face like a defensive um force like that in a playoff series. Like Patrick Ewing was probably the best center that he faced throughout his that run, and Ewing wasn't really known as a defensive stopper. It was he had
I
his,
totally disagree, but I
not like
think
Hakeem
I
though.
mean
Like Hakeem is literally like
it's just because Hakeem is one of the greatest shot blockers of all time, or maybe the greatest shot blocker of all time. But Ewing, especially coming out of college, was the defensive monster. That's like what
Well,
he did.
even during their prime, I mean, it was Ewing, it was Robinson. I mean, Robinson won an MVP, and then Hakeem goes on to embarrass him. I think that was, I mean, it was those playoffs where that was a real separating factor. But leading up to that,
Sure.
you could have picked any one of those guys as the best center in the league, and people would, have respect for that.
That's just because of Hakeem's temperament, though, and I think that sucks.
that's
Like if
true.
you look back at his career, like his temperament was no good. He always wanted to be traded. He was in that spot, and then he figured it out, and it was clear who the best center was. It was very clear.
Well, yeah, because
And
that clutch gene isn't. Yeah, it's just totally
He
different.
dogged
for
them.
sure.
He dogged them all. He got
100%.
all of them. He got Shaq. He got Robinson. He got Ewing all in playoff series. In that,
I will say
2-year
that
stretch,
Shaq's the
and
one
killed them
who
all.
individually played the best. I mean, because you've seen the numbers and stuff. Like Shaq,
True,
balled
but
out,
if you
but like,
ask him, he says otherwise. If you ask him, he goes, "That man embarrassed me," and that's all I need to hear. Like
whatever. Sometimes Shaq's way too humble, and he says, Giannis
Yeah,
is better.
sometimes he's the opposite, though.
Sometimes
I
he'll
don't
say
know if
Kobe's the
that's fair.
greatest, and then he'll say he wins 8 championships with somebody other than Kobe. I don't trust Shaq for his opinions.
I don't
But
know.
anyway,
I've never heard him say Hakeem is soft ever. I've always heard him bow
no,
down.
that
Like
is
he
not my
should.
argument that Hakeem is
Like he
soft.
should.
Okay, do not put
No,
words
no.
in my mouth.
That wasn't. I'm saying I'm putting words in Shaq's mouth, and that never happened. That's what I'm saying.
One thing that's never brought up in this matchup is Dario was just talking about it, how much home court matters. In 1994, with that roster, like the Bulls never lost more than 60 games in any of their championship seasons, except 93. I think they did in 93. But with that better roster in 94, they're not losing. They're not losing more than 24 games like the Rockets did. The Rockets were 58 and 24. And so I think the Bulls are going to have home court advantage in that one. And then in the next season in 95, again, the Rockets were 47-35. So like we have to remember that too. Yes, they got Clyde Drexler, like in the middle of the season, and so that certainly helps. And then Hakeem Olajuwon just hit that switch. But yeah, they were kind of battling uphill, with just all these road matchups constantly. And so having to win Game 6 and Game 7 potentially in Chicago and that atmosphere, I do feel like that would be pretty tough too. But my pick is not Bulls win in 94, Rockets win in 95. Are you both going Rockets both times?
I
Uh,
see.
mm,
I do think the Bulls, if Jordan doesn't have his baseball body, definitely get past the Magic in '95. And I
That's the
think
whole point
they
of the
that
what if, yeah.
I know, no, but we're talking
I
more about
disagree with
Bulls
that.
Rockets. So see, that's what I'm saying.
See, I disagree with that. I don't
So you
think
don't even
that the
think they make
Bulls.
the finals?
Yeah, that was what I was more so thinking. I don't even know if the Bulls make the finals because so the issue is they'll lose Horace Grant, right? I'm assuming that like that's what we have to assume. Like in 90, going from 94 to 95, they're gonna lose Horace Grant. He's gonna go to Orlando, and then now
Sure.
they have to deal with they don't have a Dennis Rodman to stop Shaq, and now they have to deal with the same issue again where you have a great center that you can't stop, and then it's just Michael Jordan on one end. And
I would
I think
hear I would hear a counter argument to that though. I actually don't know if you have to assume that because you have to remember what Horace Grant was leaving in reality. He was leaving a situation with Jerry Krause and Pippen, not displaying great leadership and Michael Jordan being gone and the Bulls' glory days are over and all those narratives. And yes, he got a more appealing contract,
yeah, that's
but
what I
at
was
the
gonna
same
say.
but at the same time, it's like leaving after winning your fourth straight championship, even with a better contract, it's kind of you kind of have to jump to that conclusion to think that's still going to happen. So honestly, I'd hear counter arguments either way.
I
I
don't know,
always make
man.
the
This guy,
assumption that he still leaves, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody made the argument against that.
that's what I was about to say. I was about to turn that and be like, to that point in '93, '94, if Jordan comes back, what is he going to do? Stop Horace Grant from eating again? Like, that's not going to be
Yeah,
a
that's what
good
I was.
locker room environment.
I
That's not
feel
going to
like
go
he
well.
wants
And then you
to.
have the Rockets who are firing on all cylinders in that season.
I
I
don't
don't know, man.
understand your argument though, Russell, because like let me just put this and then I want to hear your response. You're making the argument like Michael Jordan is going to be like this locker room killer. Like, dude, he had to play with them all those years, and clearly they were one of the greatest. Well, I don't understand the point you're making then. If you're
It
saying
took,
like
you don't
he's
think
gonna,
that takes a toll on a human being the more years you do that?
they
If
won
you have a
six
guy,
championships in 8 years with that being the case. So I'm saying, what's
yeah,
the
there
difference
was
this season?
the difference is that between those two three-peats, they have a different power forward. And I think that matters immensely. It's not the same guy over that same 8 years. And it's because of exactly what Dario was saying. He left because not only
So you're
did
saying
he
he
see the
doesn't like
writing on the
MJ enough to
wall.
leave? You believe he's still leaving?
I'm saying, no, I'm saying even if he stays in '93, '94, I'm saying the team chemistry is going to be rough that year. Like, because it's just going to weigh further on his brain. And I don't know how you can't say anything otherwise because the guy
I,
was clearly losing his mind.
and
It was
and
very
I
obvious.
think in terms of where Johnny was coming from in terms of if they win a fourth championship, he probably stays. I could see that, but if they lose, which is a pretty decent possibility that they do lose, and if
Sure.
if they're now 3-1, Horace Grant is looking at it like I got three championships. I need money. I need to and then not
Sure.
to mention now we're gonna lose and I'll have to deal with him. I might not want to do that. It's one thing when you're winning,
Well, if you
you deal
assume
with
he
it.
loses, sure,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
But
yeah.
the thing is, I'm sorry, but I just can't assume that locker room difficulty is going to be as consequential as it was because again, just look at the 98 season. They hated their general manager. Scottie Pippen missed time. He demanded to be traded. Dennis Rodman's taking vacations mid-season. And again, the guy
Yeah.
who has to deal with all this is still Phil Jackson. And so even
Yeah.
if they have like, difficulties in 94, I don't know, man. It's a
I
big
just think
leap
that's
for me to assume that that's going to what does them in when they've fought through that so many years before.
yeah, I just think that those two eras that like I really think the mid '90s and early '90s and like the late '90s is very different, even though it's not from a time standpoint. It is wildly different, and I think they got away with stuff that they would not have gotten away with in the early '90s because of the lack. Like, and I've been very consistent about this, about the worst competition in that period of time.
Mm.
And I think that's why they were able to get away with that. They're not getting away with that in 93, 94. I'm sorry. It's just no way. I don't think
who's
so.
saying that's happening? I don't understand.
The Jordan rules, the book that
what
just came out like a
goes
year
so
ago. What are we talking about?
But they still won the championship the year that came out. It came out at the beginning of the season, and they still went on to win. And then they add more pieces to make them stronger. Like,
yeah, I just think it's another year. And the only reason you think that they're stronger is because of how good they looked that year without him. Like, I just think that's
it's because of the names on the roster, dude. Tony Kukoc was being coveted way before Michael Jordan had even retired. That was set up. That was going to happen. And so
I'm not as sold on these pieces.
Michael Jordan wasn't even taken off the cap. He was still their highest paid player for the year he wasn't there. Meaning they can do all those moves still, and there's no salary cap difference. There's none whatsoever, because he was the fifth highest paid player in the NBA the year he didn't play, which is just insane. And so, I don't know. Honestly, we could just get into it more, but like, I kind of want to leave it here and let us know in the chat what you guys think, because when emotions are highest, that's when you get the most comments. So let us see what's going on.